much. My next guest uncovered this shocking fraud and has spent countless hours advocating for the victims of that mass shooting and calling for accountability. Amy Susman lost her nephew in the Lewiston shooting. 35-year-old Max Hathaway was a married father of two and with one baby on the way. He had just earned his college diploma, got it in the mail, went out to dinner to celebrate, and that is when he was shot dead. He never got to meet his third child, Anna, who was born 6 weeks after his death. Amy is now advocating for legislation to make sure tragedies like this never happen again. She joins me live. Amy, first of all, what fantastic work on your part uncovering the fact that these funds that had been donated specifically for people who were shot and killed in this mass shooting. How did you uncover it all?
I received, first, thank you for having me on your show, Elizabeth. Really appreciate it. I received a publication put out by the Maine Community Foundation called Maine Ties, and it's put out spring 2024. In that publication, they talk about the shooting and the fundraising that was done and the number of people who received money from the fund and 29 nonprofits receiving money from the fund. I didn't understand the nonprofit piece of that because I knew from my family that 100% of that money was going to the survivors and family members of those who were killed in that shooting.
And just to be clear, people who donated were told explicitly that 100% of your donations would go to the victims.
That is not true. People who donated had three options, really. They could donate to survivors and family members, they could donate to nonprofits, or they could split their donation 50-50. The nonprofits they could donate to were not listed. What the disconnect is the survivors and family members were told that 100% of that fund was going to them. Meanwhile, money was being raised within that fund for nonprofits. They did not know that. They did not know about that part of the fund, most of them, until I told them a year later.
So the people who were donating knew they might not be donating to the shooting victims?
They could donate to nonprofits, but the list of nonprofits was not provided. So as I look at the list, I suspect they did not expect this list of nonprofits to be receiving that money.
And many victims of the shooting went out and told their friends, donate to this charity because we'll get 100% of the proceeds. They did not know that there was that option to donate to nonprofits, or there was a plan to donate to nonprofits.
That's right. My family told me, hey, listen, if you have friends who want to give, tell them to give to this fund because 100% of it goes to the survivors and family members, and everyone will benefit from that.
And do you know of people who donated and clicked the I want 100% to go to the victims, the shooting victims? Did 100% of their donation go that way?
I have no way of knowing that.
You have no way of knowing.
I would make the assumption that it did, but I don't have any way of knowing. I did reach out to some larger companies that gave without going on the website and clicking, and one returned my questions. And what I was asking was, when you sent a check in, which part of the fund did your money go to? Did you designate? And the one that returned the answers to me said we weren't given an option to designate. The Maine Community Foundation told us they would split the money because I couldn't figure out how $1.9 million got in that nonprofit part of the fund.
And we should say some of these nonprofits, which have nothing to do with any of the people who were shot in this massacre, these nonprofits received a lot more money than the victims who were shot and facing, you know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 hospital bills.
Right. So if you were at either of the shootings and you were not shot, escaped without being shot, you received $7,000 from the fund. Some who were shot and survived received $30,000 to $32,000. I don't know everyone, but I know a few. And then each nonprofit received $65,522. So a person who shot and survived,
twice what people who were shot received.
Yeah. And the list of 29, I started calling them, and the first one on the list was permanently closed. 6 months after receiving the funds, they were permanently closed. So I went to the next one, and there were, I think, 10 that were specifically for immigrants. And I called some, but some didn't have a working website, or nobody answered the phone. I left a message, didn't hear back. And then I called some others. I called the YWCA. I didn't call, there were two that are directed by a gentleman who killed someone with a gun, and I didn't call them.
Yeah. Well, you're working now to put a stop to this, for working for legislation to help protect survivors and family members from, you know, these kinds of scams, if we can call it that. It's a little unclear at this point. But Amy Susman, at least you uncovered this all, and I really appreciate your work. Stay in touch with us. We'd love to report on your progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.